we will move on to storyteller number 3. He is going to tell us with this story entitled Multiclassing in the Pandemic, how the unending quarantine has transformed us into self-taught chefs, bakers, barbers, and more. Please welcome Dean Alfar. Hello, Dean.
Hello, hello. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to say good evening to everyone and thank you for bearing with us. Alam niyo naman, pag mga live event may nangyayari, lalo na dito sa digital realm. So suddenly it's me. Siyempre, pa-relax pa ako, but let's do this. I'm going to talk to you about multiclassing in the pandemic. So first of all, definition of terms. Ano ba yan? Well, di ba, in real life, we are defined by our professions as adults. So we can be dancers or lawyers or anything, dentists, ganyan. If you've ever played a role-playing game in the tabletop version or in the digital version, you would know na meron ding ganyan. They're called character classes. And what happens is you start off with one character class and then down the line, you can acquire more skills or professions. Ang tawag doon, multi-classing. And in my experience, this is what happened to me and actually to all of us during the pandemic. So let us take a step back. Remember the early days of the pandemic? Di ba parang it was just an inconvenience. Medyo shocked tayo na biglang magla-lockdown and we did our discreet panic buying, you know, yung restrained na parang hindi naman nakakahiya. So bumili kami ng pamilya ko for 2 weeks worth kasi we didn't really think it would last long. After all, it's just a disease na siguro naman may gamot yan and all that. So during that time, suddenly, vacation ang mga anak ko. So 4 kami sa house. It's me, my wife, Nikki, and our daughters, Sage and Rowan. So no school. Suddenly, everyone is on holiday, on vacation kasi wala ding work. So it became a perfect time for all of us to do fun things. So that was our first multi-classing. So while some of our friends decided that it would be the best time for them to work on their novel or write that suite of poetry or do things like that, kami, ang ginawa namin is, well, we became linguists. So we love to travel and up to now, hindi pa namin gine-give up yung booking namin ng mga flights. Kasi you have to hope. So we were planning to go to France and Spain this year for our 25th wedding anniversary. So Duolingo allowed us to brush up on French and Spanish. So we did that and our daughters started to learn how to play the guitar. So this is the period in time during the pandemic na medyo masaya-saya pa tayong lahat. Kasi parang, you know, this thing has to end. It's not going to be that long. But as time went on, it did became rather more serious. And nag-start na yung feeling ko ng heaviness inside, which I could not articulate at that time. So naging shock sa system ko when I realized, first of all, wala nang gym, tapos wala nang ballroom because my wife and I dance. So suddenly, we were really, really trapped in the lockdown. But we pushed back against the growing heaviness and I became the primary hunter and forager. So that was my new multi-classing. Kasi nga, kailangan kong lumabas, ako yung mag-isa na lalabas into the wild na nakakatakot, honestly, at that time, kasi nga, we didn't know yung vectors exactly ng disease, baka nasa hangin or baka may ma-encounter ka na tao. So I needed to go and find food and supplies and sundry. And those were the days that I was so focused on food primarily. So our multi-classing at that time went into food-related things. So my daughters became bakers. So suddenly, nag-explode ang kanilang knowledge thanks to the internet and then their previous experiences and the fact that their aunt, my sister, is a patissier. So they started to bake. And yung supply namin sa pantry ng baking goods, kasi hindi naman talaga kami baker na gumagawa ng bread at kung ano-ano na ganyan, ang bilis ma-deplete, lalo na yung butter. So butter became such an important thing. It's crazy, ha? So naghahanap-hanap ako ng butter. And sa area namin, at that time, talagang closed lahat. And kung pupunta ako sa grocery, parang issue pa yon kasi kailangan i-timing ko. Tapos I could only carry so much because wala kaming sasakyan. Our vehicles were trapped in Antipolo. So anyway, I was in despair kasi my kids needed butter. So I was looking around and then nakakita ko ng Jollibee branch na bukas. And this was the time na yung pagkabukas nila yung talagang halos walang tao sa loob kasi walang tao sa streets. So pinuntahan ko and then kinausap ko si Sir Francis, yung manager. Tapos nagtanong ako, nagbebenta ba kayo ng mga inventory items nyo? Tapos sabi niya, yes. Sabi ko, oh my God, do you have butter? Sabi niya, titingnan ko po sir. Ang alam ko po meron. So he came back with a food service size tub of butter. And alam mo, muntik na akong umiyak talaga doon sa branch na yun. So love na love ko yung branch na yun and si Sir Francis. So nakauwi ako ng butter. Pagdating ko sa bahay, tinaas ko yung butter, parang it was such a big deal and we all had a good cry. And we had a lot of bread and cakes and things like that. Kami naman ng wife ko, we have always been home cooks kasi nga feeling foodies and we love to eat and all that. Nung period na ito, nag-start na talaga kami to go chefy. So with all apologies to the real chefs out there like sila Waya, kaming mga pretender, we did our best with our ingredients and all that. And it became like a mini quest for me to find the fresh ingredients and the vegetables for this particular dish we were looking. Nakalikal ko lahat ng mga ingredients dito sa aming pantry, lahat ng regalo ng sisters ko noon pa in the past few months. Tapos all these little things that I would buy haphazardly whenever we travel. So nagamit ko yon. Sometimes successful and masarap yung food. Sometimes no, pero maganda ang plating. At pinipicturean ko yan. So we became chefs. And this is how we started to cope nga with the growing heaviness and unease, because we still thought that things would change and it would end. But as we all know, it did not. Instead, nag-extend pa. So when we kept hearing news about the extension, it was really that point in despair na anong gagawin natin. So in addition to everything that we were becoming, we started to delve into our fantasies. So no, not that kind of fantasy. I'm talking about things that you didn't really expect to become. So nag-trend ang TikTok. So pati ako nag-TikTok, pati anak ko nag-TikTok. So sasayaw-sayaw ka dyan. Tapos pati yung pagluto ko na TikTok na din, na ganyan. We also became political analysts, di ba? So anti-this, anti-that, comment, magagalit ako sa Facebook or sa Twitter. So we also became support for the front line because we could not go out, and we really supported them by donations, by prayers. Ang multi-class namin dyan, parang naging cleric kami, so we became prayer warriors. But there was only so much, of course, that we could do. When it became talagang endless na, it became super serious, ang bigat-bigat na ng pakiramdam, dyan na nag-start mag-breakdown yung mga ilaw, yung plumbing namin, yung electricity. So between us, we needed to acquire the skills and multi-class into professions na talagang, So thanks to grit, will, determination, and YouTube, natuto kaming maging mga electrician at plumber. So nakakatakot yung nangyayari sa banyo, pero sinong gagawa? Diba? So kami din, we learned how to use the change the fuses, circuit boards, and all of that. Natuto kami maging space engineer. Kasi nga, kailangan aayusin itong bahay. Ano bang optimal thing dito? Kasi nga, di ba, for the longest of times, we all thought it's not going to last. But since it is, in fact, going to last much longer than any of us anticipated, we really needed to make changes and things like that. So we also became professional cleaners. So wala kaming kasambahay, wala kaming helper. Apat lang kami dito. So hinati-hati namin yung chores na ganyan. So talagang professionally cleaned ang house. Except that walang bayad sa amin. So sorry na lang kami. The last thing that we became during that time period was barbers. Yes. So I really resisted this. Prior to COVID, I would go to my barber every 2 weeks and I would have a shave, a haircut, na ganyan. My wife and daughters would go to the parlor and all that. So during the time of the pandemic na hindi pa kami nakakalabas, humaba talaga ang beard ko, ang hair nila, and we couldn't stand it anymore. So Lazada comes to the rescue. Yung in-order namin na months ago finally arrived. Nakalusot siya, trimmer and razor. So I was able to cut hair. And nakakatawa because our last name is Alfar. Ang tawag namin dyan, suggestion ng isang friend ko is Alfar lore. So nagbukas kami ng Alfar lore na kami lang apat. We cut each other's hair and okay naman. It was scary at first, and when I posted about it sa Facebook, a friend asked about Nikki since I cut her hair. Dean, hindi ba nawalan ng gana sa buhay ang asawa mo? Sabi ko, hindi naman. Pwede na, pwede na. So, but through this all, despite all these acquisitions, it was really hard. It's hard for us. And I'm sure it's hard for a lot of people. Sorry, nagpapawis ako. That sense of unease, that sense of sadness, that heaviness was really hard to deal with. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what it was. It just seemed to keep going on and on. But then I realized ultimately what it was in a conversation with my brother, si JJ Dicini. What's happening is we were in fact in grief. We were mourning the loss of our freedom. We were mourning the loss of our routines, and we were mourning the loss of our identities. And grief goes through stages, and a lot of us have our own timings when it comes to this. So what happened to me was, in order to deal with my grief, in order to survive, I multi-classed. So what happened is I and people like me, well, I'll use we acquired skills to survive the boredom, to survive the fear, to survive being locked down with the same people na kahit mahal mo, after a while, wag mo na tayo magkita, wag mo na tayo mag-usap. Diba? We had to survive. So we dealt with this sense of loss, and that sense of loss was linked to our identity. So we created our new identities. And with all this multi-classing, with all these things that we have acquired, I am stronger now because my realization is, number one, the world that I knew is really gone. It's dead. It's not coming back. So whatever I was before, I can reclaim bits and pieces of that. But I have to become something else. So all of these things are the construction of my new identity. I live in the moment in the pandemic, but I also live for the future. So we do survive, but we will do more than that. We will thrive because we are multi-classed and we are strong and we will see each other through. So my question to you is, what have you become? Thank you.
And thank you, Dean. Sana hindi lamang sa isang 8-minute experience. We hope this works. These thoughts and these words find themselves into a novel. Yes, mga kaibigan, isa po siyang writer. Aside from linguist, baker, barber, parlor owner, and pastry chef and travel expert, he's a writer and businessman by day, pero ballroom dancer at night, by night. In his next life, Dean hopes to be an American ninja warrior or live in decadence as a rich socialite's beloved dog. Yan po. Maraming salamat, Dean. Thank you to you and to all of you.